Okay. First, introduce yourself, name, year, pronoun, major, and then after that you can start your speech. Now start.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Rosie, pronouns she, hers. I'm a third year data science major and I am running for Vision President for next year. Alright, so starting off with my platform, I believe that I'm qualified for this position because of my multiple years of leadership experience. So I was an intern for one of the other Alianza orgs my first year, I was on appointed board for that org my second year, and this year I'm an exec board member for Fusion. So through these three positions, I was able to work with 3 different boards throughout the years, and also just learn firsthand what it really takes to lead an organization. So this year with SNS board was also really significant because we had to undergo a lot of different changes and adjustments because a lot has changed since the past years. So this ranged from a surge in general member numbers to a lot of implementation of new programs and events. So hopefully I plan to apply my experience over the last 3 years to guide Fusion to even more success next year. So when it comes to new programs or ideas, firstly, I want to help improve the structure directly of how Fusion is run through board. So this year's board had to go through a lot of rebuilding, but thankfully that means future boards will have a really strong foundation to build off of that. So with this, I plan to set specific standards for each board member. This includes having a concrete understanding of what is expected from them as both a board member and their specific position, what our shared goals are for each program and event, and what we as a board hope to accomplish by the end of our terms. I believe that being on the same page from the very beginning of the year will help board run smoothly next year, even with the addition of our 4 new board positions. Secondly, I want to really improve the academic culture of our board, and so one of my main goals, if elected, is to encourage the academic success of each board member. Especially because board is purely voluntary, we get no units, no payment, anything. I really want to ensure that board members don't have to sacrifice their student journeys purely for the sake of their position. So I have numerous ideas, just including dedicating space in our board notes, just to talk about our academic achievements and our goals, as well as planning to add to the board buddy system this year to include just checking in on each other and to mandate board buddy groups to have bi-weekly study hours. Lastly, I want to improve the balance of Fusion's 5 pillars, and I understand that it's of course inevitable for one pillar to maybe outshine others just a little bit, and that goes for any organization, but I personally don't feel like this justifies the overshadowing of the others. So Fusion's social support pillar this year was the strongest, but that in itself it could be better. And our other 4 pillars should be getting enough programs and events for our general members to partake in, where it does not feel like there is an overshadowing or absence in them. So I'd like to ensure that there's always an attentiveness to the balance of pillars when calendaring and when reviewing each week in order to ensure that we as Fusion are providing a good, diverse range of opportunities for our members. So with that, I conclude my platform.
Alright, so now for the Q&A portion. If you guys have questions, please scan this QR code. It's going to take you to a Google Doc. Let me know if you guys can't access it, but it should be available to anyone with the link. And through that document, you just have to write your name, write your question, and then if the question is asked by myself, we will mark it as asked, and if it is skipped because it is deemed irrelevant, inappropriate, or repetitive, it will be marked as well. Also, if it is marked as, if you see something like needs clarification, we will ask for the clarification. That's why we need your name to be written there. Right. Does anyone have any questions before we start? All right. All right, Rosie, your first question. Why shouldn't you run for this position?
Okay. So personally, I feel like I'm very aware of my social battery and its limits. And I found myself kind of running low when it comes to not even just Fusion events, sometimes like family events. So that in itself is something that I'm really trying to be attentive on and even trying to work on for the rest of this quarter. But I know in my eyes, that, to me, it kind of seems like it's something that is not necessarily necessary, but it is kind of important to be able to talk to anyone. So that is one concern I do have when running next year.
Your next question. This year saw a resurgence in all our pillars. However, professional pillar was least of them. How do you plan on improving upon our professional pillar?
So in my opinion, the professionalism pillar is one that can be a little bit difficult to encourage general members to go to, because some of us are here in Fusion for whatever reason, whether it's you're home away from home or for the social aspects, but it is really important for us as students to just have professionalism goals in the back of our minds. So my main thing is to just have a lot of importance regarding the professionalism pillar and just have kind of that culture that this is something that we're gonna be going into in less than 4 years once we're done with college. So I just want to ensure that there's a good amount of professional opportunities, just any resources that we have, as well as giving general members the opportunity to actually share anything that they would like to share, because we have a lot of upperclassmen, students who have taken part in projects or like capstones or senior designs things. And I feel like those are really, really crucial things that we can share and just provide guidance to our members. So to directly answer the question, just having more programs, being able to let our general members host or provide input for workshops, and also just making sure that we are continuing our affiliations with DCP, SOAR, the Engineering Alumni Society as we have now.
All right. Your next question is, can you critique the current president?
Not to be biased for whatever reason, but I genuinely think that JD did an amazing job as he could have with what he was given. And what I mean by that is Fusion this year is very, very different from Fusion in the past, whether it was last year or especially the 2 years before that. So our board actually had to do so much rebuilding that some of us didn't even have official position holders who were in our positions last year. So that's how much we had to really adjust and just start things from scratch. So with that being said, JD really, really, really helped guide our board. Sorry, I don't know if I'm going with the QR code. So that in itself, I think he did a really great job. But because of that, because of all the starting from scratch, I think the one criticism that I would have is kind of outside of his hands, I would say, which is just that board didn't have any set standards for what is expected of them, didn't really know what we as a board wanted to communally work together towards, which again, if you don't have anything to look back on, you kind of have to do it yourself. So with that being said, I think one thing that would have really helped this board this year is if we had set standards from the beginning so that board members could know what is expected of them and what they need to provide for Fusion.
All right. Your next question. Fusion saw a big growth in new members joining and being active within the organization this year. How do you plan on maintaining and furthering the growth of new faces joining next year?
Just for clarification, does this mean both retention and new members?
Gabe?
Yes.
Yes, awesome. So when it comes to retention, I feel like personally the people who have come here and stayed, they were staying for one reason or another. So just kind of continuing what we as Fusion is already providing them, as well as just, again, adding more. I feel like, if we have a lot of events, the general members who want to go to them will. And so yeah, just continuing what kind of Fusion we have this year. And when it comes to getting new members, honestly, I feel like we could definitely continue pubbing out to other orgs, being active in other orgs as well. For example, the ESO, Discord, all the engineering student organizations have a Discord where we're all able to talk and talk about our events, so we could definitely continue doing that. Also with potentially getting with the ICS department as well, seeing their student organizations and helping us out there too. And also just having physical appearances in other orgs or even just physical flyers around campus to ensure that our name is always out there and that we can continue showing that we have a lot to offer.
You have 9 minutes left. Your next question, with the addition of 4 new board positions, how do you plan to manage an increase in the amount of board members under you?
So the 4 board members, I guess in that sense, we'd have a minimum of 4 more people. So at least 18-ish board members next year, which is going to be a lot to handle, but I personally have worked with boards that were 21 people, and then also having 12 plus interns. So I've had some experience with working with super big boards, and honestly, sorry, can you repeat?
With the addition of 4 new board positions, how do you plan to manage an increase in the amount of board members under you?
Okay, so when it comes with the increase, or when it comes to the increase of board members, definitely just ensuring that every board member feels really, really supported, because sometimes it can be hard if one position feels like they're being seen less than the other. So just ensuring to continue giving affirmation to all of the new board members, especially the new ones who also have to start from scratch, essentially. So yeah, just making sure that our board members are able to be close on a personal level and not just a work level. So hopefully our summer board meetings this next year will be able to help us build personal relations with each other.
Your next question is, can you describe your other commitments for next year? And also, do you have any ideas to resolve any time conflicts for both yourself and other board members?
So my personal involvements are mostly just the senior projects that I will have to do. But other than that, I don't plan to be super active in other orgs. So I don't necessarily have any time conflicts outside of school that I plan or that I can foresee right now. But when it does come to board members and their time conflicts, I do just want to emphasize throughout the summer that if you're running for board, we can't control you, and we obviously don't want you to limit yourself to just fusion, but just keeping in mind of your own personal capacity, just when it comes to doing whatever it is that you want to pursue throughout college, just keeping in mind that the fusion board is kind of a lot. It's at least 2 hours on Sundays, 3 hours on Wednesdays. So just keeping in mind your personal capacities and knowing what you can put on your plate. I think that's something that I really plan with next year's exec to emphasize during the appointed board interviews, and also making sure that everyone's on the same page about what is expected of them when they apply.
We have around 7 minutes left, and if we go over time, unfortunately, we would have to skip the questions towards the bottom. Next question, how would you go about in tackling problems or conflicts or difficulties that may arise within the club?
I think when it comes to within the club, I've had some experience in the past with there being issues in a club, and personally, I believe that it's really important to directly talk with the people involved if they are willing to talk about it, because there's never just one side of the story. There's never intentionally bad intentions. So just kind of trying to figure out what everyone's perspective is when it comes to the conflict and trying to ensure that there's no misunderstanding in the first place. Because sometimes a lot of conflicts just do arise from misunderstandings. So I would definitely just aim to have personal conversations and direct conversations with the people involved, or also with exec if needed. And then once that happens, just if they would be willing and able to talk to everyone that was involved in a direct and smaller meeting, and also just trying to make sure that any conflicts that happen do just happen on a professional scale when trying to resolve them, because it can be difficult if general members here and then everyone has opinions, and just try to like spread the conflict by word of mouth when it could be resolved internally.
Being a leader requires a lot of decisiveness and adaptability. Share some examples of your own ability and willingness to be decisive and adaptable.
Honestly, when it comes to adaptability, my years in leadership have ranged from when it was completely online, my first year, and then last year when we had that random online portion, the winter quarter, and to being fully in person this year. So we have had some like unexpected news or some kind of adjustment that we've had to go through in Fusion and also in the other org that I was part of. So I definitely do have that ability to adapt, I believe, just because that's kind of a natural thing to essentially like be aware of, that you should be able to adapt to any changes that are happening. So in my personal experience, we've had this year kind of like, oh, should we have Fusion Fit at this place or this place? And then we've just been like, okay, let's just decide, we'll do it here. And then if anything happens, then we'll change it. And then we've also had other experiences where, like for example, we didn't get the CCC, or we didn't get this room this quarter for enough time for call time, so we rented out the boardroom upstairs. So just stuff like that, just always being on the lookout for potential things that you might oversee when you're initially planning, and also just having a few backup plans or a few backup options in your mind.
In your platform, you spoke about setting new standards for the academic culture of board. Can you elaborate more on these specific ideas? How will you enforce them?
So when it comes to academics, this is something that I really am kind of serious about, because again, like everything is voluntary, but I don't want people to feel like they have to sacrifice their studies and hours they can put into school for Fusion. So one thing that I want to just set is the academic culture of board. So during our 2-hour board meetings on Sundays, we purely talk about just Fusion, which is why I want to add a section where board members can just write, oh, these were kind of things I wish I worked on from last week, and then also be able to write their academic goals for the upcoming week. So that way everyone can just kind of see and be inspired and motivated by everyone else and how hard they're working. Also just because a lot of the time when Fusion board does talk to each other, sometimes it can be very limited to talking about just Fusion. So I want to be able to open up like that space and that culture for people to be able to talk about their academics. And so in that way, board members can just be really supportive of each other and know like if someone or who else has a midterm this week, like they can all go study together, or who else is like going through a hard time with homework or something like that. Just being aware of each other's just things that they're stressed about or things that they're excited about, and just being able to hold each other accountable when it comes to their goals as well.
Next question, what impact do you hope to leave on Fusion?
I definitely feel like Fusion is one of the newer boards. We were just founded in 2001, so that's like barely older than some of us. So there is still a lot of improvement or not necessarily improvement, but a lot of growth that Fusion can get to. So definitely just trying my best to make sure that the future boards and the people who come after, the future general members who come after me or my board next year, just have a really good example to go off of. Just because I'm a really firm believer in like leading by example and just trying to ensure that everyone is motivated enough to continue like the growth and the welcoming space of Fusion.
We have time for 2 more questions. With the growing amount of board positions and interns, how do you plan on ensuring that there isn't a social barrier between Fusion Funyuns and other general members? And if you aren't aware, Funyuns stands for, or Funyuns includes board and interns.
So it was like essentially not wanting to separate the board and interns from general members. Honestly, it can be a little bit hard because when it comes to interns, at the very start, it's like these are the people who were active, and then they became like leaders within Fusion, and then like who's left are the general members who are slowly starting to get more involved, and then that kind of like that cycle kind of continues. So I think one thing that board can definitely do is just to ensure that they're able to make connections with anyone outside of the people that they're directly working with, because that's something that I honestly sometimes struggle with. Like I feel intimidated to talk to people who weren't people who I've gotten a chance to work with. So just encouraging board members to be able to talk to new people who come in. Same with interns, again, because those are the people who are stepping into leadership in Fusion. Just being able to talk to whoever, and again, it's like inevitable because you're like active and you see the other people who are active and then you get close to them. But yeah, just keeping in mind that there's always new amazing people who are coming into Fusion throughout the year, and so there's always a chance to get to know someone who could potentially like be someone you get really close to. So just encouraging that mindset when it comes to talking to new people.
All right. Your last question. It's by Rocky actually, and he asks, would you rather be a minion or a smurf?
I think a Smurf because I would like living out in the nature. And I would think it would be fun to be blue.
All right, give her a round of applause.